Hi, Bob from Pinegrow here with a new tutorial series. In this series of short tutorials, I'm going to walk through converting an HTML template to a WordPress theme. This set of tutorials is going to be a little bit different, a little more relaxed, and I'm going to code alongside you. I've put together a lot of WordPress themes in the past, and I've also spent a lot of time working with Pinegrow. But actually, I've never gone the whole route. I've never taken an existing HTML theme and then converted it over to a WordPress theme. So I'm going to go ahead and do this alongside you in Pinegrow. So first up, let's just kind of look at what we're going to be covering in this first tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up my little introduction to the series here, but then we're going to look at how we open up the template in Pinegrow that we want to convert. And what we're going to do is using an existing HTML template from Pinegrow. We're going to select the Bootstrap 5 agency template. I think that's a pretty good template to convert over. And in this tutorial, we're just going to start with the very basics of that. So first up, we are going to look at how we've configured our site settings. I'm not going to go through this in depth because this has been covered in other tutorials, and I'll put a link below the video. But I do want to just take a very brief look at where our files are going to go and how to configure that in Pinegrow, since it's the very first step in that conversion. We're going to talk just a little bit about semantic HTML, and we're going to do the first step of breaking our theme, our first page of our theme, down into a header, a main site content, and then a footer area. And then we're going to perform our first export and see what exactly Pinegrow creates for us within our WordPress theme file. Okay. So we're going to go ahead now and just switch up here to the Pinegrow monitor. Sorry about that. Sometimes the software is a little glitchy or a little bit problemsome. All right, so here I've got Pinegrow open. We're working on the newest Pinegrow 6.2, I think it is. And what we're going to do is start off by opening a new project. So we're going to click on the icon here. That'll bring up our modal for selection. And as I said, I'm going to use a Bootstrap 5 block. And I'm going to use the agency template. So within that, there are multiple pages we can use. We're just going to start by basically making a landing page. So I'm going to go ahead and select a page and pick that first index.html page. Once that's opened up, in order to use WordPress Actions, I need to have this as a project. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. And in order to do this, first we go and save the page. And so I'm just going to move to my dev folder, make a new folder. We'll call this, I guess, WordPress theme. Go ahead and save the index.html within that. Once it's saved, Pinegrow is going to ask if we want to open it as a project. Click on yes, and now that's going to allow us to activate our WordPress theme builder. So I just want to step back for a second and talk about what I save this as. So right now, this file is saved as index.html. And we'll come back to this in a later lesson, but in the WordPress hierarchy, the index.html file is typically reserved for a page that's going to show you your latest posts or different dynamic content like that. And instead, we're putting together sort of a unique landing page as our frontispiece. And typically that's not going to be named index.php. So remember, once you convert your HTML over to be used in WordPress, they're going to be converted to PHP files. So it's not going to be index.php. It's going to be something like front-page.php. But for simplicity for right now, we're going to go ahead, do the conversion over with it named index.html, which will export as index.php, and then we'll go ahead and change that name to something more appropriate. Okay, so having said that, so now we've got our page open, it's saved as a project. So then we're going to go, if you're not already there, into our WordPress panel. So that's this tab here. And we're going to go ahead and activate WordPress. So that's going to bring up a modal that has some features that might be new to you if you've been using this for a while but haven't gotten into Pinegrow 6.x, any of the newer versions of Pinegrow. And basically the topmost question here is, what are you building, a theme or a plugin? And what this allows us to do is to change our project type such that we can make blocks and reusable components that can be brought into other themes. But in this case, we're converting an HTML theme over to a WordPress theme. So we're going to leave this as theme. Next up, we need a theme name. You can choose to give this some styling if you want, or you can just put in a simple name. We're just going to call this Pinegrow Conversion. We need to give this a slug. With the slug, it has to be a single string without spaces, so we can separate words by underscores. It also has to be lowercase. So Pinegrow Conversion. And then we need to put it into a theme folder. So at Pinegrow, we recommend, and we've provided tools to help you out with using a particular app, and that's the local.app that used to be called Flywheel, I believe, put out by the same company but renamed. And so basically your theme folder should be a folder you've already created within the local settings section of your hard drive. So wherever the local.app is saving those theme folders. If you choose to use some other server app like XAMPP or MAMP, they're going to have a different location for you to put that folder into, but it should already be created. And that's because there's limitations in NWJS that don't allow us to access the native create folder call within the from within the program here. So we're just going to navigate. So I have a local sites. So within local sites, I've already made a WordPress installation called Pinegrow-conversion. So within that, we go into our app section, public section, WP-content, and then there'll be a theme folder. Within the theme folder, I've also created a folder called PG Conversion, which is where we're going to want to export all our files. So I'll just go ahead and select that one. So now the other thing that we could do is we could add in a site URL. This is optional. We might go back and do this later. And as I said, we're going to leave the master page for right now as index.html. We might change that later. So there's some other things that we can change here through this modal. We can change how our SEO is handled. Let's, for right now, leave this on let WordPress handle the SEO. We can use the WordPress jQuery script. So WordPress is going to load in jQuery. If we need to use it in our theme, we can elect to load in a different version. This can be kind of dangerous. You can, if you don't know what you're doing, you can kind of give WordPress problems. And then if you don't mind, we're going to leave on the include generated with Pinegrow in the source code. So if anybody takes a look, if they say, wow, this is a really great theme, let's see how they made it, they're going to see generated with Pinegrow, and that gives a little bit of love back to us. We can also, from this modal, elect to customize what the different image sizes are. So WordPress has built in certain size names: thumbnail, post thumbnail, medium, medium, large, and large. We can decide if we want to customize those, change them from the WordPress defaults. We can also add additional image sizes. So if these aren't enough for us, we could add say a small, which is between a post thumbnail and a medium. And then finally, this last section is for blocks. This allows us to create Gutenberg blocks that can either be used in our own theme or exported again and brought into a different theme. For right now, we're just going to leave this on regular JavaScript blocks. We might in future lessons go back and change that to a dynamic PHP block. The other thing that we can elect to do here is change what style sheets are loaded for the theme versus, or excuse me, for the front end versus the back end, like when you're editing the blocks, as well as allowing inline SVG images in our block attributes. One of the things to keep in mind, SVG images are great. They're sizable. There's a lot you can do with them with CSS. However, they are a potential security threat if they're not screened properly. So most of the time when you're handing a theme off to an end user, you don't always want to allow them to use SVG images. And in fact, use of SVG images is blocked by default in WordPress. You have to actually go in, alter some PHP settings in order to allow WordPress to upload SVGs into the media library and use them. Okay, so we've got this defined, so we're going to save the settings. And so now everything is ready and we can go ahead and do an export if we want. So the next big task that we have ahead of us is to really think about what we're going to want to be able to change, what we're going to want to keep the same, and just at a very high view, the one thing that we're going to want to keep the same is basically this header up here. So we're going to want to pretty much preserve our menu selections across different pages. And the other thing is down here at the very bottom, we're going to want to preserve this footer. So we want the same footer to appear on all of our pages, not just the unique front page. And then we can go back in future episodes of this tutorial, future videos, and talk about things like, okay, we're probably going to want to be able to change this text, these buttons, this image, maybe make these logos into a single block that we can choose to either have there or not, blocks to bring in videos, things like that. So for right now, just to keep this video short, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to want to say that this is our site content, everything between this top menu and this bottom footer. And so the way we do that is we're going to go over to our panels. We're going to switch to the tree panel and we're going to collapse some stuff down. So this header here, this nav bar is in the header. So we've got the header section. We've got a main section that's going to contain all of these different elements here. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, we also have a footer component that has our agency logo, as well as a little bit about us, contact information, and then site links to the different pages within our site. So like I said, one of the things that we want to do is keep our HTML semantics. So already this template is kind of set up for that. If it wasn't set up, we would have to rearrange it. But the big thing is, at a very basic level semantically, you want at least something that defines your header section, your main section, which within WordPress is going to contain your site content, and your footer section. You can also, depending on the overall design of your theme, have something like an aside section that's going to contain widgets for displaying different things. But this is really best semantic properties procedure right here, is to have this header, main, footer section. Okay, so basically within Pinegrow, what we want to do, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my setup here a little bit. We're going to go to Window, Workspace, and I'm going to take it to 4. That way I can have my tree over here, and I can have things selected, and then have the WordPress actions over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that main section, and within Pinegrow, the WordPress theme builder, in order to define or split your page up into a header that's used on all the pages and a footer that's used on all the pages, and then a differing body, is we actually want to use the site content action. So just take a look here at the WordPress actions. So there's a large number of different actions. The first one we're going to go to again is our site, and that's going to have a number of different actions. But basically, we want to set this main as our site content. So we click on that, and now we can see right over here that we have our page divided up into a header, a main with a site content, and a footer. Everything before the main content is going to go into a header PHP file. Everything after it is going to go into the footer PHP file. And then you can also basically set the beginning and the ending of content. If, for example, we wanted our footer on this page to contain all of this and our footer on the rest just to contain this bottom, or maybe even just this copyright, we could decide where the main content stops and where the footer starts by setting that. And I'll show that in another video. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we can go ahead and save this, and then go ahead and export our theme. So that's going to pop up a modal. It's going to talk about some files that have been customized and copied into our project. These include a functions.php. So if we just switch over to the project, we can see that, as well as a file that's in our includes called custom PHP. So this custom PHP is where you should do most of your customizations to your functions, rather than in this main function .php, because basically sometimes this functions.php will get copied over when you do certain updates. So it's really better to put it into this includes / custom.php. So let's just take a quick look at that. So we're going over to our project panel, and we can see that there is now a functions.php. This can be opened up in our code editor. It's going to give us a lot of different stuff, a lot of different functions. And again, we can do some customization here, but it's really better to go to this includes folder and use this custom PHP file. And again, this is going to allow us to add in any kind of custom PHP. Okay, so let's just close this down, give us some more room, and let's just quickly go over and look at what we now have within our local site. So I'm just going to switch to a different desktop here. So right now, this is just the front end of our new WordPress installation using the WordPress 2021 theme. So the first thing that we're going to want to do to be able to see our actual theme is go into Manage Themes in your desktop, in your back end. That's under the Appearance tab here on the left side of your dashboard, and then Themes. And then basically what we have to do is then go ahead and add a new theme. Let's go back. Our theme should be, there it is. Okay, so basically all I had to do is update the theme list, and our Pinegrow conversion theme is there. So now if I just go ahead and hit activate, and now we go back and view the site, you can see that it's changed over to that agency template with our header, body, and footer. So let's just take a quick look at the actual files now. So switch to this desktop. So again, we're in our local sites. Let's open it up a little bit. Within that, it's within the app, public, WP content, and themes. So let me just double click and open the PG conversion. Okay, so now what we can see is that WordPress has created for us a couple of different files. There's the index.php file. That's what's got that main body content, as well as a footer.php and a header.php. So it already went ahead and split those out into the files that WordPress is expecting to deliver across multiple pages. We can also see here's our includes folder, and within that we have a file that is helpers from Pinegrow that it utilizes internally, and you don't have to worry about that, as well as our custom.php, which will be used to bring functions into our functions.php. All right, so that is the what I wanted to cover within this tutorial. I hope that it's been helpful, and I hope you're looking forward to the next tutorials where we really dig into setting up the customizer for customizing content and delineating what we want brought in and where we want it brought in from. Again, right now we're just working on that landing page, working on converting the content that's on the landing page over to something dynamic that our future users of the theme can alter. And then in future ones, we'll go through setting up a page to, for example, show our posts, maybe make it searchable. And also we're going to go into creating Gutenberg blocks. So I think really right now where the WordPress community stands is at that transition between completely using just the backend customizer for putting together pages and altering content, and using Gutenberg blocks. And so what we're going to do is put together sort of a hybrid where we're sort of utilizing both in a theme. So again, hopefully this was helpful to you, and tune in for the next tutorial. Until then, have fun designing with Pinegrow.